into Northern California, Southern Oregon that get the rating of 5. And like I said, this is probably one of the worst ratings that we can get. We're talking about some winds. So the higher up you go, expect hurricane force gusts.
To a mess, I think. So make sure you're ready up there in the Pacific Northwest. Avoid the coast entirely, because that's going to be a mess. Some places will see more than 4 inches.
It's going to be a pretty interesting day here at the coast. Not sure how much photography I'll be doing today with all this rain, but especially the wind. That is the part that concerns me the most. See, it's already shaking the car, and it's gonna get much, much worse later today. So here's what we're gonna do today. I'm gonna take advantage of this nasty day to show you how I live in my car, how I spend one of these days, and I'm gonna answer some of your questions as well. But first of all, I'm gonna make some breakfast because I am hungry. To celebrate Storm Day, I went to the grocery store last night and got some blueberries. This is a somewhat luxury item for me on the road because I don't have a fridge. The only downside is that I have to eat the whole package, otherwise they'll go bad, but still they are so good. And that was very, very good. Having breakfast is usually the first thing I do in the morning. Today is the exception because I'm taking the day off from photography because of the bad weather that we are gonna have. But yeah, on a normal day on the road, I try to get that out of the way as soon as possible before the sun rises, because when that happens, it's all about photography. I think this is the part that confuses the most other people about what I do on the road, about the way I travel for photography. They don't fully understand that first and foremost, this is a work trip for me. The main reason I'm here is to make images. I'm not here on vacation or camping and happen to take photos on the side. It's the other way around. I got to stretch my legs, which I wasn't even sure I'd be able to do today. It's actually a beautiful morning. It's not even that windy. I know I said I was going to take the day off from photography, but I'm reconsidering it. I get a lot of questions about living in the car for photography, the most common ones being how do you go to the bathroom and why don't you get a camper van? And I'll get to those later. But first, this very good question from Rafael. He wonders whether spending so much time traveling alone, sleeping in the car, makes me more of a hermit. Do you get used to being alone and then become more irritable with people? Or is that just a cliche? So I'm an introvert by nature, and by that I mean that I get energized when I spend time alone, and when I spend time with other people, especially in bigger groups, 5 or more people, I get exhausted really quickly. My energy gets depleted and I need time alone to recover. That being said, I'm talking about hours or 1 or 2 days, not 2 or 3 months like I'm spending by myself on the road now. That is a very long time to be by yourself, even for someone like me, for an introvert like me. So this lifestyle has a very interesting effect on me because it makes me crave social interaction, something I don't usually need or want. So I'd say that it makes me the opposite of being a hermit. I find myself to be more patient with people once I'm back home, even though this might last only for a few days, because I missed that connection. How much does your back hurt? Well, yeah, I do spend a lot of time in the car, but not as much as you might think. Again, I'm here to take photos, so I rarely spend more than an hour in the car without going outside on a walk or something during the day, of course. There are exceptions, of course, like days when I drive a lot or nasty days like today where I might not spend as much time outside, but the vast majority of the days I'm on the road, I think I spend more time outside and moving around than I do when I'm back home. And even on those days when for whatever reason I don't get to be outside for as long as I would love to, many times I still get to move thanks to something I should have done a long time ago. And it's a great life hack when you are living on the road. And that is a gym membership. I got a membership for one of those chain of gyms available nationwide, and that was the best thing I could have done. That is because not only I get to use them as a gym, especially nice when I have to drive several hours in one day because I can take a break, go there, move, exercise, and then keep driving much more refreshed, but I also get to use their restrooms and showers. I think I could have an early lunch today, following the theme of trying to keep things as simple as possible because, again, keep in mind that I don't live on the road full time and that I'm not on vacation. I try to keep it as frictionless as possible, so I eat a lot of canned beans. I know what you're all thinking, what a bland meal, but here's the secret sauce. I add some nutritional yeast and spicy chili. These two things add so much flavor. I love it because it's a fast, convenient, cheap, and healthy meal. That was delicious. Okay, next. Ever think, what the f*** am I doing? Man, every single day of my life, not just on the road, but also back at home. I'm not going to lie, I'm not going to pretend that this is perfect. Even the little things that you don't even think about at home are pretty hard when you live in a car. But you know, if you get past the few days that are the most uncomfortable ones, you get used to it. You can get used to almost anything. And then is when you start appreciating what you gain from being on the road. And it's the freedom to be anywhere you want, anytime you want. It wasn't that bad of a day after all. It barely rained. We were supposed to be having 60-mile-per-hour gusts, and no, not at all. It's just a little bit windy. I don't know, maybe they got hit harder farther south, but not here. Which is funny because the whole reason I'm still at the Oregon coast is because of the storm. I just didn't want to drive in bad weather, especially where I'm going next in Eastern California. They had gusts up to 80 miles per hour, something crazy. Oh well, I'm not gonna complain about some extra time at the Oregon coast. It was not a bad day at all. Sadly, it's coming to an end because even though it's not even 4 p.m., sunset is happening soon in an hour or so. So I need to start thinking about where to spend the night. There are a couple campgrounds nearby. I think I'm gonna go check them both out. Any of these will do. I don't always get a campground because most of the time I just need a parking spot for the night. But finding a good spot for the night is a bit trickier at the coast, especially now that, again, it gets dark at 5 p.m. And $28 for a campground with a shower is not too bad. Dinner. Now that it's getting darker, now it's the time. I do wish I had a bigger rig, a camper van or something like that. It'd be very nice and very helpful to have more space to move inside, especially now that nights are 14-15 hour long. So why don't I have a camper van? Well, two reasons. The first one, the main one is, well, money. They are expensive. They are more expensive than this car, and also they do not double as daily drives as well as this car does. When it comes to money, not only a van with all-wheel drive and high clearance like this car, which I use to get to some places, to some locations, a van like that would be much more expensive than this car, and that is before any conversion that I do inside. That is before the insurance, that is before the much worse mileage. I've been getting 30 miles per gallon. I would assume that a van, a camper van, a big one, is gonna do around 23 or less than that. And that means, if my math is not wrong, that every 10,000 miles or so you're paying $500-600 more just on gas. Also, gotta say that during the day I rather have a small, nimble car that I can drive almost everywhere. Having a camper van would make my nights much easier, but it would make the rest of my life during the day and when I'm not using the van much more difficult. Now, I'm not against getting a camper van. I might still do it in the future if I want to do long road trips more often, and I think it makes total sense for someone who does this full time or even more often than I do. I think it's very important not to forget why I'm here, why I'm doing this. Again, I'm here to take photos. I'm not here to be inside the car. I'm here to be outside, to be exploring and to be pushing myself out there. And you know, when you live in a car and spend so much time inside, you really take any chance you can to be outside, and that helps my photography, I believe. Also, because I split my time between here, the US and Spain, getting a camper van either here or there would only fix half of the problem, because I couldn't have a van at the other location, if that makes sense. Also, I wanted to say that I've never used a camper van. I've never spent a night in a camper van, but the more I think about it, I mean, you're still stuck inside a vehicle. Yeah, you can move a little bit more, you can stretch, and you have more freedom inside, but if you have a very bad weather day outside and you still can't leave your van, your day is still gonna suck quite a bit. I was pretty exhausted last night, so I loaded the pictures and the footage of the day onto my computer and passed out, basically. I woke up very early this morning to the full moon. I had breakfast and took a shower all before sunrise and headed out for photography. And good thing I did, because I found beautiful foggy weather first in Coos Bay, and then at this random spot on the side of the road. It just appeared out of nowhere. It was magical. The fog didn't last very long, but I managed to make a few long exposures around the area, including beautiful Bandon, of course. Anyway, as you can see, very different weather from yesterday. I'm gonna head out in just a few minutes. I'm finally leaving Oregon. I'm finally leaving the Pacific Northwest. I'm going south now, but I have a few more questions that I would like to answer. The one that I get asked the most often after the camper van one is, where do you poop? Well, you'd be surprised to hear that it's much easier than you think. The restroom situation is pretty good here in the US. They are not always the cleanest, but they are available. And again, sometimes I stay at campgrounds, sometimes I stop at rest areas, I go to the gym, as I said, and in the case of an emergency, if nothing else works well, then I have that foldable toilet in the car. How often do you get asked to move on? I have never been asked that because I make sure that I'm not parking in a spot where I'm bothering anyone. And again, the key here is to arrive late and leave early. I'm not camping, I'm just crashing for the night. How do you edit on the go? Do you bring a tablet or laptop? Yes, I do have my laptop. That's how I edit my photos and videos. I do it every night, and now that they are long enough, I get a good 3 hours every night of work. My biggest fear is to lose the photos or the footage that I've gotten so far because it's not backed up anywhere. I do copy all of my photos and the videos every night into 2 separate hard drives, but still they are in the same location. So there is the risk that if something happens to the car or the backpack where they are, like someone breaks in the car or something, I might lose all the photos and videos I've made on the trip so far. So I do a couple things to try to mitigate that situation a little bit. Once a week or so, I do export what I think are the best images so far of the trip, and I copy them onto my phone. And you know, it is unlikely that something is going to happen to both to the hard drives and my phone. If something does happen to all of those things, then that means that something has happened to me too, and in that case, the photos and the footage is probably the least of my concerns. Another thing that I try to do whenever I can, when I have good service on my cell phone or when I go to a coffee shop with Wi-Fi, is to back up some of those pictures to the cloud. Now, I use Lightroom, and it's pretty neat actually that when you first connect to the Wi-Fi, after a while it starts backing up first the images that you have given a rating, either with stars or with the flag, with the picked flag. So that's nice because it backs up the good photos first. But in any case, I do have mild anxiety about all the pictures and footage that are sitting in my car right now with no other backup, because yeah, it'd be pretty bad if I lost it. And this is gonna do it for this video. This is gonna do it again from Oregon, from the Pacific Northwest. I will see you in 7 days from a very different place, because we are going south. We are going to the Eastern Sierra. See you there. Thank you so much for watching. What are you?